Okay.
Tough Hay, page Tough Hay. Says, Afa Pisha Netila hi midibri seifrim. Dvarchen alea shekichalem seifse tzivanu al til sedayim. Vehechin tzivanu. Shenemar leisasa men adavar shegidu lecha yamin usmail. Leficha kisha'anu shaymin adir chachamim. Anu mekayim mitzvah Hashem shetzivanu lishmoya aleim.
Taf Vov on the top, the second line. Taf Vov, the second line.
Vezeu tam kol habrachas shemevarchin al mitzvah shel divreim. Anytime we make a bracha,
It says Shonu.
mitzvah de rabbanon hakri sitzivanu, because we were commanded to listen to chachamim, and chachamim commanded us to do this. Menadin ha'yeroi levarech koidim hanatila, shekol ha-mitzvah levarech aleim oy velasiyasam. Shel fa'amim ein Yedayim ein yadon nekiyis, ben ha-yoytz bis ha-kisei. Lekach mevarchen la'olam acher netila. Shelachalek ben netila l'netila. So, in order we do not differentiate between various netilas, so therefore we always say the bracha afterwards. Void furthermore, shagam hanigo v'umen mitzvah. Drying one's hands after Netilas Yedayim is also part of the mitzvah. Right? Like we're going to learn soon, you're drying the hands is not just a technical thing. Oh, you wash your hands, it's dry your hands. You're not supposed to eat your bread with wet hands. You're to learn about that soon, the next Amud. So therefore, the niguv is part of the mitzvah. Even there are some times you don't need to dry your hands, like Netilas Yedayim Shachris in the morning.
Or if you want to eat Davush to Burgamashke.
You also dry your hands after. You're saying it's only by lechem.
By bread, like a mitzvah.
I hear, I hear. So, Zakter, Hiratzu l'chalik bein netila netila. So we're on Amud Tavav.
When we make the bocha, actually, when the
I'm
hand
going to
is
say right
dry,
now.
or
So,
while you summon.
mhm.
When we actually make the bocha, when the end is dry, or while you start menagim?
Before you menagiv. Before you menagiv.
You
He's
finish
going to say,
washing.
he's going to explain.
Okay.
Kamaki misha noitel yada v'beish tifres. Levarech achash tifres shoyna. Koidim shiten alei mayim shneim. Interesting. So he says like
That's what
this.
they do, Taki? Make the bocha and then continue washing. Right, these people they do only once, twice.
Um, what does this mean over here? Saying seemingly what he's saying is that
Because you didn't
when you
done
washed one time, the first time makes your hand
yes.
tar. Why do you wash a second time? To take off the water that became tame from the hands. But the hands are already nikiyas. So he's saying you could make the bracha in between the two netilas.
That's why we're holding our hand this way, so mine from here should not go back.
But so when you wash the first time, the hands are tired, even before they're dry.
Right?
So then when you need to wash. Then why do you need to take out? Then why do you need to wash the second time?
Because maybe water from here went here. Somewhere water touched you.
What is that? So when it touches your hand, you become tahar. The first time, you become tahar right away. I'm asking, even if it doesn't before it falls off. So now what happens? You're saying if it moves down,
Water from here moved to here. This water wasn't pure.
wait, was this water? It wasn't the water that came from
Yeah,
your
yeah.
hand
The water from
initially.
here came
It
here,
moved down here,
right?
and then if it moves back,
yeah. So if the water touches
is
here,
that's the issue. Okay, now as opposed to if it just stays there without moving back. Wait,
so you had pure,
okay, so what? So this part of your hand is not pure,
right?
but we don't worry about it. We don't have to wash because we're not touching the food with it. Like generally, we're just taking. I mean, is that okay?
Um, what does he mean here? Uh, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. They have a psataych over here in the bottom, but I don't understand what they're saying. Mhm. I don't know. According to what it's saying over here, it's not something that we do. Is
Shalom aleichem.
oh, Shalom Aleichem.
I'll open the paper, please.
I was at the oil yesterday with my brother David. Did we have to mention your name?
Okay, I was there, Moshe Shabbos.
Oh wow.
Such a big line.
Hey, they should have let you go ahead. They should have let you go ahead.
Yeah, it was security, women here, men here, second 5-5 for it. I went like this, I said, right there. That's okay.
They let you go in right away.
Huh?
They let you go in right.
Yeah.
They made
there. He told me go stay in line.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's how I spoke to some people. Huh? Oh, shit, was beautiful. So crowded. That thing said, couldn't
Actually, it
move.
doesn't say one time, two times, three times. It doesn't say. But either way, just going to that timing.
I don't know. Here he's saying that if you wash your hands 2 times, you should make a bracha in between. We don't have this. We don't do this.
In between
But,
the first pier and the second pier.
No, to wash hands. From one way to
Like
The Velt only washes the hands twice, not
Right.
3 times.
Right. One.
It seems what Mayim Rishonim, Mayim Shniyim. That's actually what the Mishnah says. Maseches Yedayim. We don't have any Gemara Yedayim. We have only Mishnayos. And the Mishnah says that you noitel Mayim Rishonim and Mayim Shniyim. Now,
What's your shining machine?
2 times. You wash your hands twice.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah.
1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2.
So what does in between mean? Between the right and the left then? Because that
Seems that after you wash both hands, you take the brach after you wash them 1 time.
then you do 1, 2.
He's saying you're doing 1, 2, 1, 2.
I mean, you're right. If in between doesn't mean between right and left, then it means between 1, 2, 1, 2 instead of 1, 1, 2, 2. Then right, left, left.
That means we tough vote in the middle of the left. Inshallah.
See, I understand what the middle is.
Uh-huh. It's a good point what you're saying. It's possible, Taka, that's Taka what he means over here.
That what?
That someone who does each hand
twice.
Goes once and then once,
What does that mean, once and once?
instead of doing 2 times one after another.
Right.
You once, then twice, then the other hand once.
Nobody do 1, 2, 1, 2. Nobody do that.
I don't know. What we do
We
for
don't-
Nagelbash.
We don't know.
Twice they do 1, 2.
What we do for Nagelbash in the morning, so maybe some people do it for
And the
Sufim.
same hand they do 1, 2, and then 1, 2.
It's sufim.
And you make a brocha when you do the first one.
just like we do in the
He
morning.
says over here,
Nagelbash or other Nagelbash, maybe or bread. People do the same thing that way too.
The first time you pour in, you have to.
It could be what he's saying. It's a good point. It could be what he's saying that they were not washing with sufin. They washed one,
Yeah.
then they washed their left hand.
Right, left.
Then they were going to go again and do the right hand and the left hand. So now your hands are tahir. You did both your right and left hand, you're tahir. So you can make the bracha right then.
So what do you do? Continue washing?
Why do we do a second time? The second time the Mishnah says it's called mayim shneim. Shneim is to wash off the water that became tamei on your hands.
That you move from here to here.
According to one pshat, yeah. That's one pshat, yeah. Because the water on the hands, once the hands became tahir, it's an interesting thing. That water becomes tamei now. That water.
Right.
But that water cannot make
Another wash.
the hands tamei again.
Right.
Because your hands will never become tahir then. So made your hands tahir. The water itself becomes tamei.
Right.
Because it touched the tamei hands. But it cannot now go back and make them. But if it leaves the sfat and it comes back,
Then become
right. But while it's still on the hands, when you wash it, it can't make a tamei because then you're never going to become tahir.
no. What?
So it could be over here that's not pshat.
That
He washed one,
yeah. And then continue make another wash.
yeah. I think that's a good shot.
Somebody else do 3 times besides Chabad?
Sardem.
That's what it seems to be.
Sardem do 3 times?
Beish Tifes. Does Sfardim do 3 times or 2 times?
And 3.
Oh yeah? Okay, see?
And various other Hasidim do?
No.
Some Hasidim do?
They do 2 only.
Only that.
As far as they need 3 because a lot of tumor, a lot of.
No.
We try to be 100%. The next week.
V'im shachach b'leibeirach ad achar hanivov. So we were saying over here that in general, we don't make the bracha before because maybe your hands are dirty. So you don't want to say the bracha before Netilas Yedayim. So we say it afterwards. And we say before the nigov, before the mitzvah. The nigov is drying your hands is part of the mitzvah. If you forgot and you did it after you dried your hands, you could still make the bracha. Once you finish the mitzvah, you can't make the bracha anymore. So how can I make the bracha now? Once you took a lulav and esrog, you can't make a bracha later on. Mitzvah zu kiven shelafa amim. Yev shelavarach ala koidim asiyasa kiven ayetz beis hakisei moch levarach achar siyasa. Ein l'chalap abim pam l'pam l'oilam yachal levarach achar kaf. Since the Netilas Yedayim was pushed off to after you washed your hands, even though every bracha you're supposed to oibel asiyasim before you do the mitzvah. So here it was pushed off later because sometimes you're making this bracha after you left the bathroom. At that point, your hands are tamei, you can't make a bracha. So you have to push it off to later anyways. Chazal said we don't want to differentiate when you did leave the basic pieces. If you did not, you should always make the bracha afterwards. Once you make the bracha afterwards, there's no limits.
But you have to wipe your hand before.
There's no limits.
You wipe your hand before.
No limit to what?
When you can make the bracha.
After you wipe your hands, you make a bracha. You don't want to make
Here he says to make before.
before you wipe it.
Shalachatchila medaktik in levarech koidem hanigov. Hoyel v'gam hu min mitzvah. Nigov is part of the mitzvah because you need to dry your hands before you eat bread. But ikra natila shemevarchen lahi and natila levada shekarnasis.
Do we, by the way,
V'kol bakim iniskach sheberech hamoitzi Shivarach al Tizdayim.
No, this is for Hamotzi. I'm talking about
Oh, this is
Shayat.
Suda.
For Seuda, yeah, we all
Is it on minhag to after we go to the bathroom before Asher Yatzar to say Until Sudaim?
No.
But he implies here that it is.
Saying here that if you went to the Beis HaKisei before you were having your meal, so your hands are now tummy.
Okay.
So you're gonna go wash your hands. So before you wash your hands for Suda, you're gonna say the bracha. That's a problematic. So Chazal just pushed off the bracha to after. That's a good, interesting point here. Once the bracha is pushed after, there's no shear to when you have to make that.
Interesting.
And the shear is when you say Hamoitzi. Once you say Hamoitzi, you can't go back to say Al Netilas Yedayim.
Right.
So if you dried your hands, you forgot to say really you should say it before you dry.
yeah, no,
You forgot, you didn't say it. You went down to the table. If you before Hamoitzi, you could still
before when it's wet, we cup our hands for them, make an anti-atodine, let the water go on, and then you wipe it, and then make that.
Yeah, I'm gonna learn about it.
Why Shabbat doesn't do that?
Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
reason you pick up the hand. So the water
All over.
should go only down, shouldn't go back.
Thank you.
Now that we leave some water over here in the hand, in the last Netilas, then all of this, and then we'll go.
Now, by the way, I think Rabbi Mrazov one time wrote about how long after you're allowed to make Asher Yotzer. After someone went to the bathroom, what's the shear? How long you're allowed to make Asher Yotzer? I don't think it's so clear. There's different chaynim about it. So Asher Yotzer, you also say afterwards. So do we say the aim by shear?
How much you have to go back for water in order to make a shear itself? If you don't have water.
We said you can go back to 1 mil.
Right, so how long is this?
1 minute.
10 minutes, 15 minutes? 18.
That was for Asher Yotzer. That's for Suda. For Suda.
Talking about Shayat.
Amaitzi.
Back 1 mil forward.
Yeah, let's go to Sif Yud Zayin. We'll skip the parentheses. Kol ha'oichel b'loi niguv yadayim, tap a page tough Zayin. Ilu oichel lechem tamei. You have to dry your hands. Shenemar kocha yoichel b'nei Yisrael es lachmam tamei, the pasuk says. Al tikri lachmam lach mayim. You eating your bread with wet hands, wet from water. V'oid lachmam tamei b'gematria v'loi niguv yadayim. Furthermore, the word lachmam tamei has the same gematria as beloi niguv yadayim. From the Rishonim.
Also, if he doesn't wipe his hand and eat the bread,
Yeah.
his hands still hammer and he's touching the bread. That's his hand tammer. He didn't wipe it. And he take a piece of bread and make a mot. It's wet. Can do that.
Let's see right here what you're saying. Yesh mefarshim. So this is a pasuk which Chazal or Doirish expound to mean that you can't eat. Your hands are tummy. Your hands are tummy if they're wet. So it's not the literal meaning of the pasuk, but what's the reason behind this? So yesh mefarshim shetumazu hi mimayim arishonim shenitmei yedayim imam revius. So the first one's tainas that like this. We know that we wash 2 times at least. The Mishnah calls this in the beginning of Maseches Yedayim, Shnayis Yedayim, says it's called Mayim Rishonim, Mayim Shni. As we explained, Mayim Rishonim is to metaher the tumah on your hands, that your hands have a tumah to them. And Mayim Shniim is to wipe off the water that now became tamei from the hands. Now, even though that water is tamei, it doesn't make the hand tamei again. Because the hand now is tahir, the tumah transferred the water. The water, while it's in that spot on the hands, cannot go back and make your hands tummy again, or it never ends. So Mayim Rishonim clears your hands. Mayim Shniim takes away the Mayim Rishonim. Now, some want to say that the tumah over here is that when you're eating the bread, you're touching the bread with what hands? From the Mayim Rishonim. I washed them off with my Mayim Shniim. There's no more Mayim Rishonim that's tamei in my hands. So the water in my hands is pure. We're chayshish. What's the chayshish? That there still might be some Mayim Rishonim. So therefore you have to dry your hands before you touch the bread. Maybe you're going to matama the bread.
Does the Mayim Shniim become?
No.
Because it touched the Mayim Rishonim?
No. No, a good question.
Well, what
We never finished.
We should wipe our hands between first and second, and then wash again.
There's some discussion about that.
Okay.
It's very complicated in Netilas Yedayim, by the way.
Yeah.
Very complicated. You think, Netilas Yedayim, there's so much written about it in discussion. Right. Now, so before we go inside, I just want to point out that the whole idea of Mayim Rishonim and Mayim Shniim, that you need to do it twice, it's only when you didn't wash with a full revius. If you wash your hands with a full revius on each hand, so then we say revius has a koyach of tara. Just like a mikveh, you go into a mikveh, you are tahir, memsa, 40 sa, a revius of a loig. A revius has the koyach to metar your yedayim. And if you do it, you don't need mayim shniim. There's no such a thing as like when someone goes to a mikveh, someone's tamei. Does the mikveh now become tamei?
Nope.
No, the mikveh has the power to purify. It doesn't become tamei. So too, there's a revius mayim from Netilas Yedayim has a koyach to metar. You don't need mayim shniim. The water doesn't become tamei. The water remains tar. As well, if you took your hands and you dipped them into water, like into the mikveh.
The ocean, the mikveh.
Right? You dip it in. Also, you don't need to do it twice. Because the water is not tamei. The water is tahir. Only when you're taking mayim she'uvim, you're pouring water on your hands, and it's less than a revius for each hand, then you need to do it twice. So this whole idea, according to this first opinion, says the reason why there's when you eat bread with wet hands, it's called kacha yechu b'nei Yisrael slachem tamei. What's the tamei? It's the tumah of the mayim rishonim. I poured on it already mayim shniim. We're still concerned maybe there's mayim rishonim. That only applies when I didn't pour a revius in each hand, or I weren't mat with my hands. In those cases, there's no tumah left. It's tired, and I don't need to dry my hands, unless you're someone that doesn't like to. I don't like to touch my bread with wet hands because I'm a proper person. I don't eat my food this way with wet hands. So for that reason, but according to this svara, why this tumah? There's no reason in these cases not to eat your hands of bread. But then we're going to see another yesh mefarshim that learns differently.
What about if you have big cup and you put a lot of shefa, a lot of water? Big cup like this. I have a big cup like this, full with water. When you pour in your hands, it's a lot of water.
Min hadin, you don't need to pour twice. If your hands are clean, there's no chatzitza, nothing dirty on it. You have clean hands. Al pi halacha, if you put a revius in each hands, You're fine, and we have a lot of water, Baruch Hashem, in our sinks. The Alter Rebbe in his Seder, Netilas Yedayim, the Mishnah Berurah also discussed this. Is an opinion of the Rashba and the Ravid, mainly the Ravid's opinion, Rabbeinu Avram ben David. The Ravid held even if you're doing a revius, you should still do it twice.
Even.
Now that opinion, by the way, is not brought in Halach and Shulchan Aruch. I mean, we don't follow the Iker Hadin, the opinion of the Rambam and the Rashba and the Ravid. However, the Alter Rebbe in his Siddur, which he wrote after his Shulchan Aruch, he says that Haraitza Lotzas L'Divrei Hakel, you want to be Yaitza all Shitas and Yishayim, even if you do a full review, so do it twice. So that's what you see today. The Mishnah Berurah also mentions this opinion. He says it doesn't seem like we hold Meikar didn't like this opinion. But you see that the Oilam today doesn't wash one time, even though they're washing with a big kvart and everything, and they have a revius for each hand. You still see them doing twice, which seems to be either because maybe sometimes they won't have a revius, they're not careful about it, or because to be yaitz in this opinion. But now to Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, before we hit the Siddur, which he said a right to lots of divrei hakel, we do not hear of these Rishonim at all. They're not mentioned, and only thing we know is that if you do a full revius on each hand,
It's good.
it's good. And that's true, but it still stands ad Yedayim that the Ikar halacha is, we have to always remember the Ikar halacha, and what's a chumrah. So it's important to know the halacha, that's why we're learning. We know all the different differentiations. Me'ikar din, if you have a revius on each hand and your hands were clean. Because by the way, if your hands are not clean before, you have to wash first one time to clean your hands. Or either like pouring or just rubbing your hands underneath the water, cleaning them off, or pouring the water, and pouring the water will clean up the dirt. So you might have to do it 3 times. But if you are just washing with a revius in each hand, no shaila about it, don't need to do it twice. Now,
Well,
yeah,
3 times. Why don't you see?
that's a very hard to understand. Why we do 3 times? There's some svaras to it. Why we do 3 times? Now, good question. So,
I remember when Rona Morozov says that the first one you question maybe you don't have a revius, right? So you have some wetness on your hand and it's stomach. And then when you do the second one, you still have water from the first one that went over there. So the third one was taking away the slash.
yeah, says different svaras about it.
And he said, for the Frierdiker Rebbe, it was a cons that although he did the third one, he was able to hold water over here with his hand up and then Mashash the Yedayim and then like
Now,
to do it.
so he says over here. I want to take a look again. Yesh mefarshim in Yedayim. Yesh mefarshim, the 4th line. Shatu mazum yimayim lishonim shenit ma'yedayim imay if he didn't wash with a revius in each hand. V'af shemayim ashniyim mitarim es rishonim. So why would the hands be tamei? The water be tamei? V'malchatchila tzarich lahavit es rishonim legamri ayidei nigov. L'idai shisnag ma'alei and al tzarich l'shaf shema B'shar dvarim shashif shub mitarim b'yoyser. So really, so the nigov yedayim, wiping your hands on a towel, that is the best way to mitahar your yedayim. And therefore, since you didn't yet do nigov, there is some sort of level of tumah still on your hands from the mayim l'shonim. So that's why you shouldn't eat your bread if you wet hands, according to this shita. If you dip your hands into a mikveh, you pour both your hands in one shot. One revius. So also in the case of each hand, you did a full revius. In all those situations, you don't need to dry your hands, according to the Seish Mefresh. because there's no tumah. If you personally, this is disgusting for you, so you dry your hands. But this would not be the chiyuv to dry your hands, according to the Safik.
You can dry your hand in the machine, that machine with the air. Not even for a motzi, not Shabbat. No, I'm not. I don't.
It's a good question. It's an excellent question.
Mistaken now.
Excellent
All the
question.
time you put your hand on there.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I have to look into this. V'yesh mefarshim. However, others learn differently, and they say, "Shatum asan hi miusasan, shadavar mius karitame, sha'amar kasav lachman tame." The pasuk is not saying it's literally tame. We're saying that when you eat in a disgusting manner, Torah calls that tame. Yecheskel Navi calls that tame. Eating with wet hands is a mius. It's a davar mos. So that's why it's called tame. Not because there's an actual tumah we're concerned about over here. Even if you're going to wash with a full revius, that you don't need mayim shniyim, there's no tumah. Even in that case, you're going to have to dry your hands before you break because they're wet. It's not a tumah over here we're out to look for. It's for there's a problem. It's wet. Only in a case when you matbel your hands in the ground into the water sitting in the ground. Even according to the second opinion, it doesn't mean you have to be machmer in a case where you dip your hands. Chazal were not machmar dipping because that's like similar to tefillah shel Torah. The way you become Torah minat Torah is through dipping. If you dip your hands, Chazal did not make any gzeiras there. When they were masakin their inyan of the tilas down that you pour with a kvart, with a keli over the hands, there they were masakin. We should be concerned for mius of wet hands. So according to the second opinion, it's more chamor, it's a more machmedic opinion. That even when you use a full revius, you still have to dry your hands because your hands are wet. Eating with wet hands is most. The poskim say, Alter Rebbe brings down, you should be machmer for the second opinion, and in all situations, dry your hands. It says in Svarim, you shouldn't dry your hands on your shirt, on your garb, because that has some type of effect that makes you forgetful.
Does that mean your shirt, your pants, jacket, any?
Yeah. First your right hand, then the left hand. Every time you wash your hands, even in the morning, like I wrote in Simon Base.
Why they said learn get bechaluk or not b'gadav? Haluk was a gown that all the time they used to wear. But b'gadav is all of gadim, shirts, pants, sweater, whatever it is.
I'm just assuming because the place closest to your hands is the shirt. Why are you going to bend down and do it somewhere? He's going to go like this on his shirt, you know. I'm assuming, you know.
Was it Hagav, it was a gown?
It's probably was
Chaluk is a gown.
the chaluk, you know, was
So
like
maybe
That's what they were wearing.
right. So
then.
maybe then
Then-
it covered
Long
most of the
one, cover
body.
everything, yeah.
right. So they're not going to go and reveal like the pants and other things to dry off the hands. Yeah. Simin Kuf Nun Tes. Be'eze Kli Noitlin Ein Noitlin Yedayim V'Ketzi Yavoy Amayim L'Yodav Boi Chofa Hesif Aleph Ein Noitlin Yedayim Al Mikli Shesamchu Haras Yedayim Al Hazos Mechatas Kiddush Yedayim v'Raglayim and Mikdash Yitzichim Kli. Shebekiddush Yedayim v'Raglayim Nem v'Sisa Kiyar v'Goymer v'Rachtzim Menu v'Goymer Mechatzim v'Nosmayim Chaim El Keli. Chazal or Keveya, what they saw by the Minat Torah. What they saw by the Torah? In the Torah, when you wash your hands by the Kiyar, there was a Keli, a Koyanim. When they wanted to pour the water on the ashes of the paraduma, use the keli.
Was kli zahav or regla?
התורה אדומה, how to use them.
Wasn't for parad, not?
התורה אדומה is mechaper on chet ha'egel, so we don't use that.
No, but this kli in Bet HaMikdash was only for parad.
No.
It's regular kli. Kohanim is new.
What is
Mechata. Mechata was only.
What does that mean? Miklisha Samchu. It's not the same exact keli. What's it saying? That should be similar in what way?
Shesamchu taras Yedayim, meaning Chazal, when they set up their ideas, they're based on ideas of Minat Torah. They were soymechit. They leaned on ideas. They did not. They took ideas that they saw in the Torah. So they were soymechet on either of these two cases. The hazas mechatas that required a keli, or kiddush yadayim reglayim required a keli. So they weren't going to invent something new. They were going to adapt it from ideas that they saw in the Torah. There you need a keli. Here you also need to do it through a keli.
Okay, we're not getting right now. Not discussing what type of keli. Just
Sumi bowl, yes. That's what he says here in Siv Beis. Starts on top of Tav Ches. Kol hakelim kshedim afilu kli glalim, kli avonim, kli adama, she'inim chshuvim kelim yitum. Even though when it comes to Tuma and Tara, what vessels contract Tuma? There's a whole Maseches Kelim, complicated Mesechta, Mishnayis. You also have in the Rambam Hilchos Kelim. So we discuss which Kelim Makabel Tuma. If it's an earthenware Keli, it's not Makabel Tuma, or made out of stone. However, so that's not considered a Keli for Kabbalah's Tuma. But that doesn't make a difference when it comes to Netilas Yedayim. Those Kelim are also fine for Netilas Yedayim. Gimel Tzarash Akli Machzik Revius. Im Eine Machzik Revius, a Noit Man Yedayim, Hafilu Anoit Al Malay Beis Gimel Pa'amim. It's not going to help. You have to have a keli that can hold on it to revius. Yes. If there became a hole in the bottom, bekoines mashke. What does it mean bekoines mashke? She'im yitchuku oisei l'toich mayim. You're going to put the keli into water. You konsa mayim derech, put in a bucket of water. Derech hanekev. Unekev gadol mi nekesh hamashtech yoytzim bay. As batel teres pli. There is, when you have a quart, a cup full of water, right? A tiny little hole in the bottom is enough for water to leave it. Or in order for water to enter into keli, koines mashke needs to be a little bit larger. Okay, because to enter something, you have to push your way in. So that's called koines mashke, is a larger hole. So if it has a little hole that water is dripping out from, a tiny hole, it's still a kosher for Netilas Yedayim. It only becomes possible when the hole is a little bit larger, and that if you take that keli and put it in water, water would enter. Put it into a thing, water would enter in through that hole inside to the keli, then water on top of it, and that would be considered bat matoris keli.
How about the handle? Has to be one handle or two? You see a lot of kelim has only one handle, a lot of them keli has two.
The chumrah to have two. There's not only that, there's even a chumrah of some that had three.
What? That is so.
If you use a towel, doesn't make a difference.
Actually, we don't.
But there were those that didn't want a towel.
should be 6.
That's why they have two handles. You use one for one hand,
One down.
one for the other hand. So you're not touching any of the Talmudic water. That's the idea of the two handles. We're going to learn about it. There were certain Gedolei Yisrael they had for themselves a keli that's 3 handles. This way, they want to wash 3 times. I mean, they were ma'aded to wash 3 times for Suda.
Right, left.
So they would, let's say,
Three. But
Once
even the
you
one
agree,
three.
then what do you need a separate handle? Because
that's a good question, right? Maybe you're right. Maybe Taka right. That's
I
how
don't
they
know.
did it. Yeah,
I'm trying to be right. I'm asking.
you're right. Yeah, I have to look it up. There's a discussion about it. But this idea was that each one they touched independently for each Natila, and it wouldn't be wet for the other ones. Now, not that Minhadina needs to be that way. It doesn't need to have any handle at all.
Right.
It doesn't have to have a handle. This is anything kosher. Now, a noit menami yedayim, we're holding a siftalit, a filim u'machzik revi'is min a-nekev al-amata, im noit al derech piv l'mayla. Shimash ממנו מן הנקב למעלה לחוש הכלי שאין המים בוים על יודim מהכלי. Even if, let's say, the hole is higher up on the keli, meaning underneath the hole, there's enough in the keli that can hold a revius of mayim. So I have the revius is staying in here. There's no hole. The hole is higher up. But since when I pour it out, I have to go over, the water goes over the upper section of the keli. And the upper section of the keli, there is a hole that's large enough to koines mashke. It's mevatel materials keli. Because the mayim is not coming through something which has a toiris keli.
That even if it doesn't go all the way around and use a side of the keli that doesn't have the hole, you can tell my question.
I'm going to just skip over the whole parentheses, the long parentheses. Look at the last 2 lines in Hay. However, what happens if guy says to himself, "This is my keli here. It has a hole higher up on the keli. I understand it's possible because my water goes into the upper part. It's not a good keli in the upper half. But I'm going to pour over my hands through that hole. Through that hole that was it was not supposed to be there, but it got a hole there on the side. I'm going to make that hole. That's where the water comes out from. I'm pouring on instead of going to the upper. No problem, because you're not using any part of the keli higher up. You're using the hole itself, and underneath it, there's no hole. And definitely in a case where you broke off, you removed the upper half over the part where there was a hole, there's definitely not a problem. You have a good keli now.
But it might be that the top of the cliff should be shown, shouldn't be like a break through it.
Sif hey, abum eine machzik revius, me'anekev. What happens if the hole is lower down and the keli cannot hold a revius of mayim? Cannot, because the hole, the water, the hole is in a lower down spot, and the keli is not going to be able to hold within it a revius. The water's leaving it. But when you lean it on its side, not on the side where the hole is, on the other side, so on the side, it could hold more water. Al sidoi, you made it in a way when you poured it that the water won't leave the keli and it will sit there. So too, you have a barrel which split the length. You have a barrel here and it's split. Now, if I take this half the half that's split, and I sit it on the side, the water sits inside it. It's a half a barrel. Sits. Ein loit l'meni yedayim tap of top test. Shekol keli she'ein yochel akabel kushiyoyshiv al shulav. Elo kushematei al dafnei, only when it sits on the side. Ein inikad keli el shever keli. It's called a broken keli. It's not called a keli. Since you can't use it in a normal way when it sits, it's not considered a keli. V'yesh mekilin, however, there are shitas sharmekel. So Toisus and Chulin. That b'chol shever keli shechol lekabel aviyis b'lishi smuchu v'davar acher. They say any broken keli, if it does not need to lean on anything else, as it is, it's broken keli as it is. If it's leaning on the side, it's able to hold the aviyis. You could use it. V'yesh lismech al divreim lahagis divreim. We're talking about a din derabbanan here. So we have a machlokes, we can be mekel, like the second shita, you could use a broken piece. However, this broken keli cannot receive a revius. Ela yidei smicha, only through having it leaning on something, another object. Then all opinions agree it's no good. Hafilu hu shalem, even if it's complete the keli. Mitchilase nasa l'kabel shalei de smicha. V'yachakach nifchas sas v'moki meishavei she'ein by nekev. The problem over here is that even if the keli is complete, but it cannot be makabel or revius unless you lean it, it's a problem.
It has to be a revis without cleaning, and then it could be lean.
If it doesn't have nothing beside that, will not wash.
It means there's a hole in it, and you have to plug it. You have to plug it up.
Really, very fun. No.
That's what I understand. If there's a hole in it, you have to lean it. That means it's leaking from one side.
It's not a hole, but it's broken. Let's say you have half of a keli. It's a broken keli.
And this broken case
Broke
cannot
off.
stand by himself.
So it's not just a hole, it's the whole.
But if there's a hole and you plug it back, that makes it
Well, it should be good. I mean, Mustama will learn about it here. How could you fix the keli?
you know, like flat tire, you put a track or a plug, you know.
Discuss it. Yes. Sif Yud is going to talk about. You have to make a proper tikkun. If it's a proper tikkun, not a temporary one. There's a whole discussion about it. It's amazing how many pratim there are in Hilchos Netilas Yedayim. The Suda. Might have.
Yes.
I'm not going.
I went to Russia with
You say he is coming?
the guy from
Okay.
so
Kaya for joining everyone.
the whole week he didn't want to wash it.
Okay, so why? Oh, number two.
You have no idea
Yeah.
how much dinim important have with Netilas today.